Welcome everybody to Project You, Project Me, the FTG guide to self-belief and self-coaching. Why not come along and listen to people like you, people like me, leaving legacies for your future. So welcome to another podcast from Project You, Project Me, the FTG's new podcast on removing fear. I always love this point. And today I've got a great guest in Karl, who I've served with actually for quite a few years. And I was a junior sergeant when Karl took me under his wing in many ways, including probably in the mess and some of the stories that perhaps we don't want to bring out today. But Karl, welcome to Project You, Project Me. Tell me, a little bit about yourself, what you used to do, a bit of background, that kind of stuff. But it's great to have you here today.
No, thanks, John, and delighted to be here. So, so background for Karl. So, I was your, I guess, stereotypical young sort of lad, 16 years old, kind of broken family, very little kind of direction as to what I was going to do in life, other than the fact that I was in Army Cadets and I really enjoyed it. So, I decided that I was going to join the army. I really didn't know what I wanted to do in the army, but I guess my mind was made up when I was in the careers office and they practically told me what I was going to do. I had all these grand ideas, and then they told me basically what I was going to do. Actually, the first thing they told me I was going to do was drive a tank, which sounded really cool at the time, and I'm pleased I didn't make that decision. So I ended up joining your band of brothers, the Royal Corps of Signals, in 1992, long time ago. Young 16-year-old, crikey, I really hadn't figured out anything to do with life at that stage, and yeah, what went forward from then was a cracking 25-year career in the Corps. Where I met so many people. I have so many experiences. So many things that I've learned in life, but one of the best things about the army for me is it gave me that vehicle to make me succeed today, and I owe the army to that. Yeah. I have to say, and I guess my career, was a bit sort of split into two halves, John. The first half was when I was a young radio relay op, learning my trade. And then when you met me, I was a recce sergeant. Yeah. And then I went away and done supervisory training to become a yeoman of signals. And things slightly changed then because I started to get different opportunities in terms of postings and working across with the Navy and the RAF. So that was incredibly interesting, and I finally left in 2017, September 17. Yeah, crikey, as a WO1, which I pinch myself when I think that I managed to achieve that rank, because if I look at myself when I was 16, I just don't know. Sometimes I don't know how I got there today. So, but delighted nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a great career, and anybody who reaches them kind of ranks, they've certainly made it. And I always remember people talking very highly of you before I knew you, and before I actually met you. So I'm not surprised that that happened at all. And it's really interesting when you talk about going into the careers office. I did the same. I was going to be in the infantry, and I think I would have left the week after if I'd have gone in the infantry, because sitting in the freezing cold in the wet, it wasn't my game, as you well know. I played a lot of football, but you didn't really have to wear a military uniform for that. So you were always going to be successful. And before we go into your transition and stuff, what are you actually doing now? And I know you've got some plans in this job you're doing now to bring more military people in. What's all that about?
Yeah, so now, crikey, I work for a large accountancy company called EY, or Ernst Young, one of the big four accounting companies, audit as well. I've not been with them long, John. I've been with them for for just coming up to 2 months now, and I'm a director in their transactions strategy and execution team, which is a lot of words, right?
Yeah.
And I work with the cyber security practice there. Effectively, we speak to clients during the mergers and acquisition cycle. So anything to do with buying, selling, separating, carving out elements of business, going to IPO. We work with clients to assess their cyber readiness state, I guess, you know, do due diligence on them and make sure that there's any risks, you know, are identified and obviously quantified in terms of when it comes to the, you know, the value creation.
Wow. And they are big words. I think
they are.
I'd be scared of them words. I don't even know what they mean.
Yeah, neither do I.
And you were mentioning that you said we're having a bit of a drive to do some, or you're thinking about enhancing service people into that business. You know, is it a good place for service people? You know,
well, I tell you what, and I'm not not going to talk about EY. I've always looked at military people, partially because they're low hanging fruit, right? You know what you're going to get. And when I say you know what you're going to get someone that's professional, dedicated, really willing to learn and pull their socks up. And it doesn't matter really what you throw at them, because they'll come back to you. And in my last role, I hired quite a few veterans. I also done job placements for people in their last few months.
Yeah.
So they were on sort of double bubble to give them a bit of job experience and that as well. So, and I've always had, held them in high regard. Also, one of the main reasons is because I got an opportunity. So I think everybody should get an opportunity leaving the military. But I've spoke to a number of pure civilians, that really don't get the military, never touched it. They might have a relative or know somebody who's in the military. But what they do see, and they always mention, is the fact how professional military people are, how they get things done on time without being prompted all the time, and how they just turn up, right? And they're trustworthy, and they learn quickly. So that's the value, and that's what that whenever it comes to any hiring strategies, I'm always looking for military before, if I can, because of that. Now, there's an element of experience, right? When you take somebody in, they haven't got experience in, let's just say a specific sector, there's an element of risk there. But it's actually quite an acceptable risk, because that if you look after them, because the whole point is when you bring them in, you don't just leave them. You actually look after them and make sure they succeed, right? You want them to succeed, because ultimately they are going to help you grow. So it's one of those things that, we're always delighted to bring people in, and it is up to us to make sure that they succeed.
Yeah, it's fantastic to listen to the military human piece there, that we've found, and we've done some projects with some companies like Citation, for example, and they have took a decent amount of people over the last 12 months in their business and never lost any of them. Now, the reason they haven't lost anybody is because I've looked after them. Exactly the same as what you're saying. Military people do tend to jump ship quite quickly if they don't feel belong.
They do.
And we've all been through that, and we've all met plenty of people who've done that. But the great thing about what they were doing is that military human piece. So they not only does the individual understand the business understands the individual, and it makes it much easier.
Yeah.
You can see why.
No, absolutely. It's funny, isn't it, the jump in between roles? Because I was thinking this morning, as I was getting ready for my commute into work, which, by the way, is now considerably longer than it was when I walked from the mess to the office. I was thinking to myself, your first role doesn't have to be your forever role. Actually, it can be the stepping stone to your next. And I've heard a lot of veterans refer to treating jobs like postings. And actually, to a degree, if you're staying in the same industry, that's actually quite a fair statement, you know. And 3 years in a row is actually probably around just right. You know, some people might be a little bit nervous to think that actually that's it, I'm going to stay in that job forever, I'm going to be really comfortable, it's going to be like the military. But they'll soon realize that the value of their career comes when they move, because it's quite open that, you know, once you're in an organization, pay in terms of remuneration doesn't go as high as when you move. Right, when you move, the increases are much more. But that includes the experience. So I think the key thing is to understand that you're going to land a role, right? First of all, I landed my first role, and I was lowballed in terms of my offer, right? But I knew that if I landed there and then I done well enough, that would help me step up to the next level. And it's been like that throughout my career so far. So I think that's really key for people to understand is, you know, maybe have a plan, right, of where you want to get to, and then just figure out, you know, what little steps you need to take. And you don't need to stay in that same company all the time. You can move around because the market is buoyant, you know, and there's a lot out there for you.
There's an awful lot out there at the minute as well.
Yeah, there is.
Like I think the secret is getting military people to them, so getting them to speak.
That's the difficulty. You know, the market's craving for them. It's finding them. Like it seems really weird me saying this because I'm on the other side. So when I was leaving, I was worried about finding a job. Little did I know is that they were worried about finding me, like finding the, you know, just people in general. And you soon realise that actually it's a two-way process.
Well, just going back slightly, well, you did mention that first job and all that kind of stuff, which is a little bit of a strange time when you're leaving the military. But I always ask people the question, sleepwalker or hunter. You know, when you went through your transition, did you kind of go through your whole career thinking, you know, I suppose it's quite slightly different going that supervisory kind of area you went. Were you thinking future way before, or were you that kind of person like I was who did nothing and then all of a sudden thought, whoa, what's going on? And it's very difficult to swap then into that future, because you should be thinking about it way before. So were you sleepwalker or were you hunter?
I was a hunter, very much so, probably a good sort of 6 to 8 years before I left. Although there's still those nerves of the fact is, you know, should I commission? Should I extend my engagement? But then as things sort of progressed, and like when I was one of my roles, I was with 30 Signal Regiment, and we were fielding a new trunk communication system called Falcon that, you know, many listeners will know about. And we used to work with a lot of contractors in BAE systems, and a lot of them were ex-military, and you'd get talking to them and you'd find out, you know, the opportunities out there for you, which would make you thirsty for those opportunities. So your mindset slightly changes. And then as you kind of, you know, move into different roles, and you know, in varying stages, you're working with people that are outside veterans, and you're starting to connect with them on LinkedIn and in other ways, you're starting to see actually that's really good out there. And I think it was like, as I said, I got out in 2017, but it was actually 2014 where I really sort of had my heart set on it, and I started speaking to my first reporting officers saying that I wasn't interested in commissioning. It was at that point that I'd made my decision. I then got my WO1, which was my final 2-year posting. And that was a bit of a difficult decision. You know, me saying I was the hunter, I still had to kind of make that final decision, because actually the Corps weren't helpful for me. Glasgow APC firstly sent me a letter asking me if I wanted to do an extra 2 years, which was a versatile engagement. I declined that, right? They then got in touch with me and asked me if I wanted to stay for a further 6 months because they couldn't get somebody to come and post, right? So each one of these things, I just kept saying, no, no, no. I've made up my mind because I wanted to commit to it.
Yeah.
And obviously I'd used my resettlement time. I was already well into a settlement. I was attending loads of insight days. I was meeting loads of people. I didn't have a job. But I just thought I'd committed to it. And once I get something in my mind, that's it. It isn't going, you know, so.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had the same experience, you know, different reasons for leaving and stuff, but once I'd pressed the button, I was gone.
Yeah.
I still did my job. Probably too much though.
Yeah.
I continued playing football. I continued traveling. I never really kind of thought about stuff, and ultimately got a really low paid job. I was in my, you know, the mid 20,000s. I left on 60,000.
Yeah.
A real nosedive, and that was because of myself. I didn't own the future. I didn't really know what I was doing. Ironically, I was an RCMO, which makes it even funnier. Because RCMOs should probably know how to leave, but ultimately they've never been through the emotions, so they don't. But,
no, but you can't, you know, you're looking back now and you can say, well, actually, maybe I should have done these things. But for you were living that life, right? You were, and lots of people are like that, you know, playing the football, still enjoying the nice things in the military and going, do you know what? I'm going to get as much as I can out of this before I leave. Yeah. I'm going to get on that last ski trip, that last bit of adventure training. I'm really going to reap every single benefit I can before I leave. But then before you know it, you're gone, right?
Yeah. Well, the military for me was the most amazing time, and I would tell everybody to stay as, I mean, it's going to change and people tell me it's changed, but I heard that all my life, but it was still amazing.
Yeah.
And I still had a great time and met the best people in the world, and I'm still in contact with them, clearly.
Yeah.
But just to move kind of slightly to the right, we've had a few chats and things like that, but never really so much about what the Forces Transition Group or anything like that does. Although I've got no doubt you understand. But what do you see from the FTG, Karl? From looking on social media, listening to what's going on, what do you see? What do you hear? How do you think it's helping?
Well, firstly, what I'm seeing is amazing, John. And I know we've had discussions when you were pretty much starting this.
Yeah.
Talking about, you know, what your goals and objectives were and how it's grown. And I just feel so warm, so happy that there are people out there that you've put a structure in place, but then the network is coming around that structure and people are supporting you. And what I'm seeing now, compared to, I guess, what I saw when I was going through the kind of normal transition through the career transition partnership, I think it's called.
Yeah.
It didn't feel personal or like it didn't feel that it touched me as much as what I see from you. Like I think what the FTG are doing around messaging, around kind of helping veterans, you know, simple bullet points, things, guides and stuff to help them, and connecting them to people that have left the military as well, you know, to act as mentors. It's a real kind of strength that the FTG's got. And I'm delighted when you put your posts out and you get your little thank you notes. I love reading those, you know, from service leavers that have landed jobs.
Yeah.
You know, and they're going to be thrilled. Their families are going to be thrilled. They're just going to be, you know, it's just such a weight off their shoulders. And what you're doing is just amazing, John.
Yeah.
And I know you enjoy it, right? I know you enjoy it. And you've told me, you know, this is you, right? But I'm telling you now, what you're doing is incredible.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. It's like we set that up, but we actually didn't.
No, it wasn't cue card. No.
I think that's the community coming around the FTGs is a really nice way of putting it. People like you and all these people that support and enjoy what we're doing and actually believe in it. That's where the secret is. Because that's the legacy. The FTG or John Stephenson cannot change the transition just by being us. We change it by using the experiences and the quality of all those people that have already been there and trodden paths that are bad, medium, good, until we get to that point where we create so many of these legacies that it's impossible to leave
Yeah.
back. That's the way that I see it, and that's what I'm trying to build. Yes, it's going to take time, but you know, every legacy, and you doing this podcast might get 500 views. Well, that's in theory 500 great legacies to leave. So if people then follow what
Yeah.
you're saying and follow your positivity, then we're changing people's mindsets and we're changing their lives. And it's you're dead right. It's not just about one person or the individual. It's about that family. Get the family unit right.
Yeah.
Things usually go right.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think would I have benefited from your you know, the FTG? Yes, absolutely. Totally would have benefited from it. Because there were periods of time when I was nervous, right? I'd handed my uniform in and all my kit. My last working day was around May time, although I wasn't given the boot officially until September. And I was nervous, John, because I never had a job offer, right? Yeah. And I started to really doubt myself. But people like you and mentors would have helped me with that, because you would have, you know, we would have talked about my CV, talked about what it is that I was trying to achieve. And actually, those mentors around you can really help you. I didn't have that. I had a careers advisor that the CTP had given to me, but no disrespect to her, but she wasn't really in touch with me and what I was doing. So I never felt that kind of warmth that the FTG gives.
Yeah. That personal thing, it's like going back 20 years, isn't it? A little bit, because
Yeah.
nobody really does the personal touch now. You know, in many ways it's all video, or go and
Very
watch
much
this,
so.
click on this. One of the things we do get back is many people say to us it was just 60 minutes. That one 60-minute session changed everything. Now, wouldn't that be
Yeah.
that's a thought. If we could change everyone's transition in 60 minutes, then are we wasting our time with doing too many things? Can we just change it, then create that mentorship straight after it? That's probably the secret behind it. And it's something that I'm thinking of trying to work out whether we could do that. And I know that I've got an NDA signed at the minute to try and do certain things, but
Yeah.
if we could do it and change everyone's lives in 60 minutes, now that changes everything.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But moving on to
I was very sad to see, actually, John, that Barclays have they had that vet scheme for mentoring, and that's been closed down now. So and that's a shame, because I was on that on both sides when I was getting out. But it's not been used. And I think that's just down to technology nowadays. People are a little bit more astute now, with LinkedIn and stuff, and reaching out. But I still think there's huge value in that mentee relationship.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the push with things like that. You've got to be dedicated, and someone would have had to been dedicated to
Exactly
24/7. And if someone's not going to be paid to do that, it's always going to be lacking. You're always going to get smaller numbers, and ultimately it's going to die off. And there is quite a few people doing things out there now, which are similar and things like that. So there's competition, I guess. But actually, we want competition. We want people to have more choice. So it is a pity it's gone, because we want more of these things out there, because it gives more opportunity. Which brings us towards the end of the podcast and the Project Me guide, the booklet that I sent to you and things like that. Clearly, it was of no use to you because it's 7 years too late. But if you had received that, I know the FTG would have helped you when you left. Would you have used any of that booklet, and what would be in your favourite part?
Well, I thought the forward was really good, and the first part, which talks about the importance of making your mind up, and knowing what it is that you want to do. Now, if I can give any people that are listening to this this podcast today, my advice would be, get it in your head that you're leaving. As painful as that is, really, really focus yourself that you're leaving. and don't be afraid. And if you are afraid, reach out and speak to you, John, speak to me, speak to anybody that's done it before, and they will help you. My second bit of advice, which was within your booklet, and that is know what you want to do. I've had countless veterans that have come up to me and said, what can I do out here? And when I was at Deloitte, one of them went to a military insight day, and he was a Royal Engineer Clerk of Works, and he says, what can I do here? And I says, mate, there's probably about 1,000 different jobs there. You know, I couldn't tell you. You tell me what you want to do, and I can make the introductions for you, and I can see what we can do. And that's the key thing. One of the things I actually struggled with towards when I was leaving, was I going to be a technology project manager? Was I going to be cybersecurity? And I wasn't quite sure. And I think it's important for you just to understand what it is you're going to do, because that really helps you with your CV preparation, with your targeting of employment. So I think that bit of advice, as well as the workbooks that you have in there.
Yeah. So I'm getting a feeling. I always write down when we're talking about the golden nuggets now.
Yeah.
And your golden nuggets, first of all, was mindset. Secondly, was direction. Funny old thing that we're all talking about the same stuff, which tells us there's a problem. Yeah. What would be the last nugget? If you had that one thing, that one great thing that you could say, this will change your life, what would it be?
That is trust in yourself, trust your own abilities, right? And don't be afraid. That's what I would say. Don't be afraid. Things will come. The amount of times I get told that I didn't just get one, I got 3 at a time. I got 3 job offers. Everything was quiet. Like, trust it's going to happen. Hold your nerve, because it will happen. You do the right preparation. You do all the right things. Speak to the right people. The network will help you, and it will come. So yeah.
Love that. Mindset, direction, trust yourself.
Yeah.
There can't be many more wiser words than that. And, I am kind of seeing them kind of things all the time as well. And I often say to people, listen, I'm actually sat against, opposite or in a room, a virtual room with Karl Knowles right now. And are we the only 2 people in the world saying that these problems, these are the things people are getting wrong? Or is there thousands and thousands of us that have all gone and done that, all experience the same thing? And what we really need to do is just say, right, this is what's coming, guys. So when you're leaving, you're already expecting it, and that'll just change everybody's life. So, it's fantastic. I love that. Mindset, direction, trust you. Well, that kind of brings us to the end, and it's been a good, 35 minutes. I'm sure people will love to listen to this, going to work, coming home from work, that kind of stuff. And I believe you will be first or second on the Spotify call. So I'll let you know when all that goes on and we start to place this over. The first 6 or 7 podcasts will be on Spotify, but you'll be the first one that goes on that we've just placed. So that's fantastic.
Excellent.
I can't thank you enough for being here today. I know that your time's busy. Clearly,
thanks, John.
Into a brand new job. I know people are going to get a lot from this. I know that you're going to leave a legacy for loads of people. And if anybody wants to get in touch with you, you're a mentor on our platform as well. And you've mentored a few people over the last few years, which I'm sure they've gone on to success as well. So thank you so much. We'd love to get you back. And of course, the FTG would love to work alongside you once you get your feet in that door and you want, to look at this service piece. And we look forward to that. Thank you very much. And wish you all the luck in the future, mate. And I'm sure we'll see lots more of you. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's Project You, Project Me. Thanks for listening in. But remember, we have a Project You, Project Me guide to self-coaching, to self-belief, and it can all be downloaded on our website. We also do the 5 fundamentals: CVs, professional writing. We do brand, we do CPD, making sure you're going in the right direction. We're also looking at your elevation, giving you 2 times the chance to set up your interviews before your first actual interview. And also we look at your financial plan, massively important for your future, for you and your family. So why not come along? Have a look. What you got to lose? It's all free. Stay safe.